Brie is a soft cow's milk cheese named after Brie, the French region from which it originated. It is pale in color with a slight grayish tinge under a rind of white mold. The whitish moldy rind is typically eaten, with its flavor depending largely upon the ingredients used and its manufacturing environment. Production. Brie may be produced from whole or semi-skimmed milk. The curd is obtained by adding rennet to raw milk and warming it to a maximum temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. The cheese is then cast into molds, sometimes with a traditional perforated ladle called a pelle Brie. The 20 cm mold is filled with several thin layers of cheese and drained for approximately 18 hours. The cheese is then taken out of the molds, salted, inoculated with cheese mold or Brie bacterium linens, and aged in a cellar for at least 4 to 5 weeks. If left to mature for longer, typically several months to a year, the cheese becomes stronger in flavor and taste, the parcente drier and darker, and the rind also darker and crumbly, and it is called Brie noir. Around the Ile de France where Brie is made, people enjoy soaking this in café copyright or late at eating it for breakfast. Overripe Brie contains an unpleasant excessive amount of ammonia, produced by the same microorganisms required for ripening. Some versions of Brie cheese are smoked. Nutrition. A 30-gram serving of Brie contains 101 calories and 8.4 grams of fat, of which 5.2 grams are saturated fat. Brie is a good source of protein. A serving of Brie can provide 5 to 6 grams of protein. Brie contains a good amount of both vitamin B12 and vitamin B2. Varieties. There are now many varieties of Brie made all over the world, including plain Brie, herbed varieties, double and triple Brie and versions of Brie made with other types of milk. Indeed, although Brie is a French cheese, it is possible to obtain Somerset and Wisconsin Brie. Despite the variety of Bries, the French government officially certifies only 2 types of cheese to be sold under that name, Brie de Man and Brie de Melun. Brie de Man equals Brie de Man is an unpasteurized Brie, with an average weight of 2.8 kilograms for a diameter of 36 to 37 centimeters. It is manufactured at the town of Man in the Brie region on northern France since the 8th century, was originally known as the King's cheese, or, after the French Revolution, the King of Cheeses, and was enjoyed by the peasantry and nobility alike. It was granted the protection of Appellation d'origine contre la copyright status in 1980. And it is produced primarily in the eastern part of the Parisian Basin. Brie de Melun equals. This Brie has an average weight of 1.5 kilograms and a diameter of 27 centimeters. It is therefore smaller than Brie de Man but is considered to have a stronger flavor and more pungent smell. It is made with unpasteurized milk. Brie de Melun is also available in the form of Old Brie, or Black Brie. It was granted the protection of Appellation d'origine contre la copyright status in 1980. French non-AOC Bries equals. The following French Bries do not have AOC certification: Brie de Montereau, Ile de France, Brie de Nanges, Ile de France, Brie de Provence, Brie Noire, Brie Fermier, Brie de Melun Bleu, Brie Petit Mola copyright, Brie Laitier Coulommiers. International Bries equals. Australia King Island Dairy, on King Island between Victoria and Tasmania produce a range of cheeses sold as Brie, as does Jindy cheese in Victoria. UK Cornish Brie, US The Marin French Cheese Company in California has made an unaged cheese since 1865 described as fresh Brie. Serving, Brie is usually purchased either in a full wheel or as a wheel segment. The white outside of the cheese is completely edible, and many eat Brie whole. The cheese is sometimes served slightly melted or baked, in a round-lidded ceramic dish, and topped with nuts or fruit. Storage, Brie cheese, like Camembert and Cirrus, are considered soft cheeses. This particular type of cheese is very rich and creamy, unlike cheddar, which allows for the rapid widespread growth of bacteria if the cheese is not stored correctly. It is recommended that Brie cheese be refrigerated immediately after purchase, and kept in the refrigerator until it is consumed completely. The optimal storage temperature for Brie is at 4 degrees Celsius or even lower. the cheese should be kept in a tightly sealed container or plastic wrap to avoid contact with moisture and food spoilage bacteria, which will reduce the shelf life and/or freshness of the product. The companies that produce this cheese usually recommend that their cheese be consumed within the best before date and no later than a week after. Although the cheese can still be consumed at this time, the quality of the cheese is believed to be reduced substantially. In the case that blue or green mold appears to be growing on the cheese, it must no longer be consumed and must be discarded immediately so that food-borne illness is prevented. The mold should not be cut off to continue consumption, as there is a high risk of the mold being spread throughout the entire cheese already. Comparison with Camembert. Camembert is a similar soft cheese which is also made from cow's milk. However, there are differences such as its origin, typical market shape, size, and flavor. Brie originates from the Isle de France while Camembert comes from Normandy. Traditionally, Brie was produced in large wheels, 23 to 37 centimeters in diameter, and thus ripened more slowly than the smaller Camembert cheeses. When sold, Brie segments typically have been cut from the larger wheels, and therefore its sides are not covered by the rind. By contrast, Camembert is ripened as a small round cheese 10 centimeters in diameter by about 3 centimeters thick and fully covered by rind. This ratio change between rind and paste makes Camembert slightly stronger when compared to a Brie ripened for the same amount of time. Once the rind is cut on Camembert, it typically has a more pungent aroma than Brie. In terms of taste, Camembert has a stronger, slightly sour, and sometimes chalky taste. The texture of Camembert is softer than Brie, and if warmed Camembert will become creamier, whereas Brie warms without losing as much structure. See also: List of smoked foods. References. External links: Live Strong Brie article, EBEX 91.5.